Betsy Pepine with us. A little bit about her. She's a best selling author, serial entrepreneur, and a visionary leader in real estate. With her groundbreaking book, Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us, and a trailblazing career that spans top producing real estate teams, award winning companies, and even impactful community work through Pepin Gives, Betsy has redefined what it means to break free from self imposed limitations. So, listeners, let's quickly dive into her journey of transformation and growth, and let's try to understand what exactly does it mean to break free from boxes. So, Betsy, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you here.
Oh, well, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Oh, oh, Betsy, we often talk about, stepping outside of our comfort zones, but sometimes it becomes really difficult to understand how to do it. We know what to do, but we don't know how to do it. And that's where we get stuck. And your book has inspired so many to step outside of their comfort zone. So, what was that pivotal moment for you that sparked the idea to write Breaking Boxes?
I had reached a point in my career
Mm.
about 8 years ago, and I was so blessed. I had a lot of success in my businesses. I have 4 different companies and a nonprofit,
Mhm.
but I just found myself increasingly unhappy, and I couldn't figure out why, and so I started down a path of journaling and meditation and yoga and therapy for the first time and bioenergetics work, a whole bunch of different modalities to figure out what was going on. And when I looked at through all of those different modalities and I looked at what is the common thread,
Mhm.
it came to me that it was this feeling of containment and feeling boxed in and wanting to just burst out and just be free. And so I started writing down when I felt those instances throughout my life and, what I did. Sometimes I wasn't even aware that I was in a box. Sometimes I felt like I was in a box, but I just couldn't get out of it for a whole host of reasons. Or I would
Mm.
try to get out of it and get, pushed back in through my own fears or through others' fears of me changing. And when I started talking to my friends and colleagues about my own experiences, they had their own. And it seemed like this was a universal theme that we often don't talk about. And so that's why I wrote my book, is to help other people. And
Mhm.
in particular, honestly, women. And women, I think, identify more with this theme than men, although men are put in their own set of boxes. I'm not saying they're not. But my hope was just to help, truly one woman uncover a box that may be limiting her, from leading a truly authentic and fulfilling life.
That's really a powerful start, and definitely, I think it is really groundbreaking. And yeah, I mean, men and women have their own set of boxes, but I think when we talk about women handling so much on their plate, especially handling business and homemaking, work and everything. I think it's a really important to uh, you know be aware about this.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
in your journey as a serial entrepreneur, when you were mentioning about your journey, you said that the contentment was not there. So, what were some of the boxes, whether internal or external, that you had to break free from both in your personal and professional life?
The the biggest one for me was my career. I came from a family that had the expectation that my father is a physician, and the expectation in the family was that all of his children would be one as well.
Mhm.
And everybody in my family is a physician but me. And
Mhm.
So my sisters and I all went off to college. We were all pre-med, and um, I felt compelled to tell my parents in my 3rd year of college, I can't continue to be pre-med. It's just not in me. It's not what I want to do. But I ended up choosing a career in the healthcare field to try to kind of placate the stress I felt
Mhm.
to be in the healthcare industry.
Mhm.
And it wasn't my calling, it wasn't my passion, but I just felt like, well, it's like a happy medium. It's, you know, it'll satisfy them and me. But I wasn't happy in it. And I was in that industry for a decade. And it took a divorce, and I actually got laid off. The last company I was working for at the time in the
Mhm.
industry, it was a pharmaceutical company that the product that I was on did not get FDA approval. So they
Mhm.
laid off the whole division. And
Mhm.
it was only with those 2 events happening very quickly together in my life, it just made me, it makes you reevaluate what are you doing? And maybe God, source, the universe is telling you that this path is not for you. And that's what I felt like it was telling me. And so that's when I switched careers and decided to go into something that had always interested me, which was real estate. So that was the biggest box that I felt that really impacted my well-being for a long time. But even when I made that jump, it wasn't without repercussions. Um, I feared a loss of status within my own family unit.
Mhm.
Um, I feared a loss of social connection. I mean, all of my colleagues were in an industry that I was leaving, and that was very frightening to me. At a time that I was also getting divorced. I mean, there was just so much change going on. So I had all these fears um, to overcome. But anyway, I'm so glad I did that. But that was a box that I felt was partially imposed by the family of origin of my family, as well as internally. I put that box on myself as well. Um, but then, I mean, even later, when you become a mother,
Mhm.
and I was surprised that, there was instantly the good mom box, and what does that entail? And I'm sure that is very different perhaps in your country versus I live in the United States, but, I was shocked by women do it to themselves. I mean, we do it to each other. I was so surprised when even when my children were infants and moms talking about the way other moms parent and taking credit for the milestones that the infant was making or hitting or not hitting and feeling that they were to blame if the child wasn't walking by X number of months. And it was like this competition all over again. That one I was not prepared for. I think there are some boxes in our lives that we kind of anticipate and expect, but the good mom box I was not prepared for at all. Um, and had to really um confront my own beliefs about that at a point in my life when my girls went into school. I
Mhm.
started out being the helicopter parent where I was helping them with everything, and I was so focused on them getting straight A's and doing well in school and ensuring that, checking their homework, making sure it was perfect. And when they got into first kindergarten and first grade, I just it was an awakening, but I just said, "What is my goal here?" At the end of this experiment, the raising of your children, do I
Mhm.
want my children to have perfect grades, or do I want my children to be happy and independent and very confident in their own abilities? And
Mhm.
it was really the latter. And
Mhm.
so I really stepped back. I mean, I did a 180, and I stopped checking their homework, and I stopped making sure they had everything done, and I let them figure it out on their own. And it would kill me to see the homework sitting on the counter
Mhm.
and and them forgetting to take it to school. But I said to myself, I always reminded myself, "Betsy, what is the long-term goal?" And if the long-term goal is for them to be independent and self-sufficient, it's not doing things for them. And so I know I got criticized, while they were growing up about some of the decisions I made for my own children.
Mhm.
But now they're 25 and 26, and they're so independent and so confident, and I'm so happy I made those decisions, but it did take me putting my ego aside and being o being being comfortable with other people and teachers, not, particularly maybe in agreement with every all the decisions I made. Um and I'm just so glad that I did I'm so glad I broke out of that box at a time when I did, and I felt like it really changed how my children are today. But so that was another box that I found myself in, and that one I was not prepared for at all. Um, and then there's so many. I mean, there's boxes everywhere, our gender for sure. Even, when as an entrepreneur, I feel it in my industry. I've been told, I mean, I've been invited onto boards of corporations because of my gender alone,
Yeah.
and that definitely rubs me the wrong way. Um, so there's just so many different boxes that we encounter throughout our lives, and how we negotiate them, I think, can affect our ability, or our happiness, and our ability to lead a truly authentic life.
I mean, there's so much to talk about this because um so many boxes every day, each of the moment we have to tackle and get out of it. Uh, you mentioned about there's so much like generational box, trauma box, childhood, adulthood, teenage, especially, as a woman, as a girl, and as a mother. Um, I think, we all kind of have been in this template that you have to be a good kid, you have to be a good girl, you have to behave like this in a certain way, you have to be a good wife, you have to be a good mother. What are the standards set by? Because everyone can have their own set of standards.
Right, exactly, exactly. I mean, I it's funny because when some women have come up to me with their own boxes, and, one of the big things I hear all the time is they're so afraid of failing if they, move outside a box, and I say, "Well, what your definition of failure is, somebody else would absolutely love and deem a success." It's all how we reframe things in our minds, and it's all of these constructs, this idea of I anytime I hear the word good, I literally freeze because that automatically tells me it's somebody's definition of what is desirable, but it may not be mine, you know?
True, it's true. And I absolutely love the fact that you decided to, give that independence to your kids and let them, not exactly completely, but at least have a kind of, their individual uh, personality, their individual thought process to decide what's good for them or what works for them, and also be cognizant of the fact that, okay, maybe I'm not taking all the decisions correctly. I am open to take suggestions, I'm open to take feedback and then implement them as well. But then at the end of the day, uh, it's up to me, to my family, to my kids of what
Yeah.
I should do. And I think,
Mhm.
some people will get it wrong, and but yeah, it's all about that, striking that balance, that right balance, and that takes a whole lot of time. It does take.
Mhm.
Ray, Ray, thank you so much, Betsy, for being vulnerable and sharing this. And I think irrespective of the gender, um, I think each one of us have our own set of boxes that we have to
Mhm.
from. So you are also not only a leader in business, but also you're a champion for at-risk families through Pepin Gives and housing, real estate, for people, normal people. It's right now a huge deal. I mean, it has been. And we have seen so much happening, at the forefront of economy, or affecting the livelihoods. So how does this concept of breaking free from boxes translate into empowering communities?
Hmm. That's an interesting one. I haven't been asked that. But I definitely feel that, I mean, even with the work that we do with our nonprofit, um, there are boxes that so we serve a class of people, not a class, a group of people that will never use the services we provide on the real estate side. So, we provide real estate services. I have realtors that work in the brokerage. They're not in a position economically to buy a home in a traditional way. So they're economically disadvantaged. Some of them come from living out of their car.
Mhm.
It's really a very different population that we're serving in this nonprofit.
Mhm.
And there's people, we all, I mean, put members of society that are different than us in a
Mhm.
box and make assumptions about whatever group of people you're talking about. They just make assumptions based on their housing situation or based on how much money they have or their educational level. And so much of I love serving this population because they have taught me so much. And the love that you see in this population and the gratefulness that you see in this population is incredible. Um, so so I like to make sure that I and my agents and my staff um, help dispel some of those stereotypes that maybe some others have, and maybe we do too. I mean, I'm not excluding myself, have without interacting and being a part of their lives. I mean, I do the same thing with I do outreach with recently released prisoners, females that have been recently released from prison, and a lot of people have very definite opinions about people who have been released from prison, and they face an uphill battle. It's very hard to get employed. It's hard for them. I mean, most of them leave prison poor, so to even they've lost their family support system. Try to get housing. Try to get trained in a skill that will pay them above minimum wage. Transportation is incredibly difficult, and a lot of people turn a blind eye to a segment of the population that I believe could be us in a heartbeat. I'm so blessed to have been in the circumstances that I was born in, but I'm sure that if I was born in their circumstances, I would have turned out that way. And so I'm trying to break down those barriers and helping those people who may be facing more boxes or more negative boxes than the average person is definitely a calling for me.
Mhm. Wow, that's really, really a great answer, let's say. That's really noble and very thoughtful because at most of the times it can be so opinionated, because people are opinionated, especially when we talk about such scenarios. Um, so also, since we are on the mindful living, so in your journey of entrepreneurship, motherhood, um, community work, and all handling everything, balancing everything, what role does mindfulness play?
Mm, it's huge. Um, And it's something for me that's definitely come later in life. I didn't even think about mindfulness in my 20s and 30s.
Mhm.
Um, I started meditating in my early 40s,
Mm.
and becoming much more aware of emotional intelligence. I don't know that I even understood it in my 20s and early 30s. Um, but it's it's just everything because it to me determines the quality of your life. And because the present is is the only thing we have, and so but we're not if you're not mindful, most people, most of us, and myself included, if I'm not mindful, I'm not living in the present. I'm worrying about the future or regretting the past, which affects my quality of life today. So it's to me just it's absolutely everything because none of us know how long we're going to be here. Um, and so we truly only have this moment, and the more mindful we are of that, of the present, the the fears and the worries and the regrets disappear, and you're actually living. So it's just to me so important to my life on a daily basis.
Mm, lovely. That's lovely, Betsy. And before we wrap up, so from your book, would you like to share one or maybe more than one strategies or mindsets that you recommend for our listeners, if they want to get ready to dismantle the boxes that hold them back?
Yeah, I would say that what I have found is that because people, and myself included, we stay in boxes that do not serve us, and we know they do not serve us. So, to the first step to dismantle the box is to understand why you are staying in it. How is it serving you? And it's usually some Maria McNeese. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It's usually some fear-based response. And the fear is either a fear of change, um, a fear of loss,
Mhm.
or a fear of failure. And really, I write them down. The strategy for me is I write things down because fears can manifest in your head and they can get very large and seem insurmountable. But once you write them down, you realize this isn't so bad. For example, I don't believe failure exists because failure to me is another box. Failure is, you know, so it doesn't work out the way I expected. That's not failure. That's actually a great opportunity to learn something that I will be able to take with me for the rest of my journey. So that's worst case scenario. That's not failure. So I've reframed that in my mind so that box doesn't exist in my life anymore. So I would just encourage the audience or anybody to really understand what the fear is, break it down, write it down, and then really try to understand it. If it's a fear of change, I mean, change is the most predictable thing we have. We know nothing stays the same. The more we can get comfortable with change, the better we'll be able to handle it. I try to do something that makes me uncomfortable every day because I know that helps me deal with change. So it might just be as simple as taking a cold shower in the morning. That might be the only thing I do to put myself in an uncomfortable state that day. But that builds that muscle of your body reacting to unpleasant situations you may not like, and change that you may not be receptive to. So just try to understand what it is you're fearing and address it. So that would be my words of encouragement from the book.
Beautiful, beautiful. And right now, sending my love to your dogs, Bits.
Sorry.
Not at all, not at all.
It's getting to be their mealtime, and they're reminding me.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'll just quickly wrap it up in another 2 minutes and let you get to your dogs, because right now the priority. So thank you, Betsy. Thank you so much for
Well,
sharing
thank you.
insights, and to all of our listeners. Thank you for being a part of the mindful living journey, and stay tuned for more episodes, more conversations like this filled with transformative ideas and practical advice. To reach out to Betsy, I'll have all the links in the show notes. You connect with her, and until next time, keep breaking free and living mindfully. Thank you.